Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons video. It's great to be back with you all. This week we're talking all about self-sabotage and whether you're your worst enemy. Maybe you reach a place of happiness, peace, contentment or pleasure in your life or your relationships, but then all of a sudden your critical self-talk or negative thinking or self-destructive behaviours kick in and spoil everything. Well, in this video, we're going to be talking about what are the telltale signs that you're self-sabotaging, why you do this, and most importantly, how you can stop this negative self-talk and self-destructive behaviour so you can live in happiness, peace, and flow. Welcome to our Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons series. In each episode, we answer your questions, reveal the powerful life lesson, and offer you lots of practical tips and advice to help you live in balance, harmony, and flow. So David, I know you work every week with lots of clients who are stuck in this self-sabotage cycle. What are the typical telltale signs or things that clients come to you with and that you know they're just self-sabotaging their happiness?
Well, they'll be telling me things like, it always happens like this. I can't stop it. Every time something works out good, I know there's disaster on the horizon. It never seems to work out the way I want it to. They'll say things like, the world's against me, the universe is against me, people are against me. I call it the poor me syndrome. And they'll be stuck in our model, what we call the Carousel of Despair. This behaviour for them has become very familiar. And, I don't like the word habit because I believe habit is a choice set on default. But my clients would call it a habit. It's a way of them thinking and believing that keeps them on this circle.
Mm-hmm. And so I think from what you said, there's almost like a self-doubt either about themselves or whether they deserve to be happy or content.
Well, they would actually say that they don't deserve to be happy. Ask yourself, do you deserve to be happy? Sounds an easy question, doesn't it? But it's a very important question. If you sit down quietly at the end of this video and just think, do you deserve to have an amazing life? Do you actually deserve it? And then see if you listen to that little voice ning-ninging away that we call the inner child. The answer to that question should be resounding, yes, of course I deserve a fantastic life. And this is so important for me because I'm a great believer in the law of attraction. Because when you have that little bit of doubt, as Alex says, that little bit of criticism going on in your head, this is what disturbs this. And this is what goes on to create what some people call the self-fulfilling prophecy, the carousel of despair, of almost proving a negative, proving you're not good enough, proving you can't cope, by actually doing things to prove you can't cope. And then you can say, there you are, look, it never works out right for me.
So in that proving, I suppose there are patterns of self-destructive behaviour. So we start with the self-doubt, that negative self-talk, critical self-talk about ourselves or the situation we're in. And then we start to believe our own lies, if you like. And then because of that, we set about on a self-destructive path. So what is a typical examples of self-destructive behaviour?
Yeah, this is an interesting discussion because it can be very complicated. So kind of stick with us a bit as if you can. So these beliefs, because at the bottom of this is a belief structure, something that you believe, is something that you may have inherited, but over time you've come to own it. And I like that word. You've taken responsibility for it. And it will normally be based around the 3 lies that we talk about on nearly all videos. So again, take a moment, drop your shoulders, and ask yourself, have you ever said this to yourself? I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I'm unlovable, or I'm unworthy. Now, if you're saying that to yourself, you may be on this carousel of despair, of self-destruction. Because if you really deeply believe that you're not good enough, ask yourself, how could you actually flourish? How can you actually prosper? Because immediately you're creating a kind of a tug of war between what you deeply believe and what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And this is when we did a video on affirmations. And this is when an aspiration is what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
An affirmation is, I'm not good enough. And then those two kind of pull against each other.
So to put into place what you've just said, David, I may say to myself, I really, really want to have a successful, positive, loving relationship, or I really, really want to thrive and enjoy my career and my job and really enjoy my work, or I really, really want to savor a family life and bring the family together and be the head of our family and have a kind of loving cooperation with everyone. So they may be my aspirations, but if I harbor that self-doubt, then it's like I doubt whether I'm worthy of a happy, loving relationship, or I'm good enough for it.
Or I don't believe that relationships are ever successful.
Or I don't believe
because then you look at your experiences, perhaps in your childhood. So you have an aspiration of wanting a great relationship and you think, that's what I want. But actually, the driving force, the program, the core belief, we call it, is saying something totally in the other direction.
Yeah.
It's saying that you're not deserving of a good relationship. You've never seen a good relationship. You've only seen arguments. You've only seen arguments break down. You've never seen two people being able to work together and sort out problems. And so you start to create self-sabotaging by creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because that belief, although it's a very quiet voice, and you wouldn't dare to say to anyone else, would you? You wouldn't dare to say what we're saying out to your partner, but you say to yourself, and remember one thing I always say, that self-talk is a conversation with the universe. When you talk to yourself, don't think that you're the only one that's listening, because you are affecting your law of attraction. So using the example that Alex used, I really want to have a great career. I really want to make tons of money. The self-talk, I can't cope. I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving.
Yeah.
Then you create this internal tug of war, which results in red lights. Now, you may call them anger, frustration, resentment, whatever you want to call them, but they're telling you created that pull apart.
And I think, say with your career, if you have like self-doubt that you're capable of the job, or you're skilled enough, or you're good as your colleagues, that's kind of commonly referred to now as imposter syndrome.
And I always think that's a kind
because you just feel like you shouldn't be there.
You think you are an imposter.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It goes down to self-doubt. And I think, you know what you said, David, about that quiet self-talk that you wouldn't dare share with anyone. You wouldn't dare say to your partner, actually, I really want this to be a loving, positive relationship, but I don't think I'm good enough for you, or I don't trust that it's going to work out, or I don't think that you could possibly love me. You would never say that to a partner. And equally, you would never say to your boss, actually, I don't think I'm good enough for this job. Why did you employ me? Are you crazy? Or say to your colleagues, I just can't do this. But the very fact that we then have to internalize this belief, it is a small seed of doubt, but when we internalize it and then keep on repeating it and believing it and buying into the lie that we're telling ourselves, it amplifies and becomes very all-consuming, and we convince ourselves that it's the reality, and it's like our dirty little secret, but it's a dirty little secret that keeps us awake at night. It stops us from performing to the best of our abilities. It creates red light feelings. It just affects every element of our livelihood.
Yeah, and the only thing that I can come up with, which a client said to me just a couple of weeks ago, well, it doesn't count. This is what she said. It doesn't count if I say it to myself. And really, it does count, because you are questioning the very core of you. You are questioning that spirituality that I caution, that divine nature of who you are. You are saying one of the three lies. You wouldn't lie to one of your physical children. Why would you lie to yourself? I can't cope. I'm not good enough. I'm unlovable. And when you do the golden thread that we've demonstrated in many videos, you see it will come down to one of these three lies. Never underestimate the power of that self-talk. Once it's there, I sometimes work with clients and they say, okay, David, I'm 99% there now. And I'm saying, sorry, that's not enough. There's still 1% there. And it's a little bit like if you leave 1% there, it grows back. You've got to clear it out 100%. 99.9% is not enough. If you're holding that self-doubt, there's still work to do, because we've got to clear out that work, because that puts you on the carousel. That becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That contaminates all the areas. Alex mentioned 3, contaminates all of those areas very subtly, but extremely powerfully.
And I would say that if we make the choice, because of a lot of us are not, I guess, consciously aware that we're making the choice to continue to believe the negative self-talk. We don't, we're not aware that we have a choice to just stop it and then do the deeper work, dig in and do the deeper work, which we'll talk about in a minute. So when we just carry on and follow the lies, follow the negative self-talk, then the self-destructive behaviour kicks in as like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so this is why
The Carousel of Despair.
in loving relationships, we end up causing arguments for the sake of causing arguments, almost to push people away, or we don't let anyone get close to us in terms of romantic relationships or friendships. We isolate ourselves, or we
don't take proper jobs because we think we're going to be found out.
Or we procrastinate facing up to challenges or facing up to problems that we know we should be addressing.
Or we sit on the fence. Remember what I said a couple of videos ago. It's a very uncomfortable place. It gives you splinters where you don't want splinters. Stop sitting on the fence. Not making a choice is making a choice. But all of these are part of the carousel. That's why it's called the Carousel of Despair. It only leads to despair because you're not on your correct route. All of these areas, this is a very poor belief system that you have to own. You can't change what you don't understand. You can't change what you don't own as yours. This is why it's very important to cut through the confusion. You see at the beginning of this video, it can be very confusing. You've got to sit with it, drop your shoulders, got to take a breath. You've got to identify what we're talking about. And even if you say, oh, that's only me on certain days, that's you. Then you've got to do the work. Do not leave it in. Do not scout over it. Do not say, okay, well, I think I've done it now. Let's move on. No. Make sure you have done it completely. And it's done. It's put to bed. You've changed those core belief systems. Because if you don't change those core belief systems, it will just come back. Maybe next week, maybe next month. But when you hit a difficult event or person, it stimulates that poor belief system. Then you're back on the carousel. Now, people say, well, why do I do this? I understand what you're saying. You do this because your mind, that we call the human-centered mind, or the inner child, really favours familiarity. It loves to take you down a road that is very familiar. It doesn't have to be successful. Here's the difference. It just wants to be familiar. Into the known. It doesn't like the unknown. So the mind is always trying to take you down that familiar route. That's why a self-fulfilling prophecy becomes very attractive to the mind. Because at the end of that, when you've pushed your relationship away, when you've ended a potentially good relationship, does the mind ever apologize to you? No. The mind will turn around to you and say, it's your fault, you've done it again, and we're back on the carousel.
And that's where we get into the repeat patterns. I told you so, I was right, this was never going to work out. And would you say, David...
Okay, can I just say something on that? Because this is what I hear every day. When I challenge somebody and I say, prove to me that you're not good enough, then they'll just do what you said. They'll give me the evidence of not thinking they're good enough. You see, they'll say, well, look, I've had 3 failed marriages. I can't hold a job. I'm 3 stone overweight. I haven't got my own house. I haven't got a family yet. Those are all the result of thinking that way.
Because I was going to say, David, from that, would you say the most extreme manifestation of self-sabotaging behaviour is avoiding the self-doubt feelings, avoiding the negative self-talk, trying to box it off and put it away and hide away from it, squash down those red light feelings by drinking too much, taking drugs, over medicating, eating too much, spending too much, going out and partying too much, really like
or not going out at all.
Or isolating.
Or isolating yourself.
Basically, unhealthy lifestyle habits.
But it's part of the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Is part that, exactly. So
then you can put on weight, Alex, and you can look in the mirror and say, there you are.
No one's going to love me.
No one's going to love me. And it becomes this.
But it's all come about from believing and running with those core lies. David, I wanted to pick you up on something you mentioned a little while ago, that you said it's these lies, the self-doubt, the lack of self-belief and love for yourself, thinking that you are good enough, you are lovable, etc., etc. You said it may be inherited. You don't mean genetically inherited. What do you mean by that?
It's normally I mean by inherited normally means that you are mirroring, copying, or going right against your parents. So it normally comes from childhood, from childhood experiences. And I've often said in these videos, just purely from my empirical dealing with clients, the age group between 6 and 9 seems very, very important to me. I'm not being exact here. It could be 5, it could be 10. But that type of formative years is very important. And just say, for instance, you have a father or a mother or a brother or anybody that's really critical of you, that's always picking fault, that's always trying to, if you came home from school with 8 out of 10, they'd be angry because you didn't get 10 out of 10. Over a while, this child, which is normally a sensitive child, starts to believe they must be right and there's something wrong with me. And that's what I mean by it's inherited. It comes down the line. And this is very interesting because if you recognize this behavior, look at your parents and then look at your grandparents. And sometimes you can see this behavior passed down. It's like a present passing down. And this is why I do this work, because I want it to stop with you. Do not pass it on. Do not pass it on. It stops with you. Because as if you don't, you just almost accept that. You don't question it. You don't challenge it. It becomes part of your belief system. But really, this is what I mean by inherited. Is it your belief system? Do you really believe that? Because when I question and confront my clients, they've got no answer. They normally end up saying, well, it was because of what my parents did, or it's because of what my dad did, or I was trying to please my parents, or it's because of my brother, or it's because of a teacher, or it's because I was bullied at school. There's always a reason why they chose to believe that. But you've got to take responsibility for those beliefs, because when you own them as yours, then and only then can you change them, because they're yours to change. This is the key. This is the gift I'm giving you. When you own those beliefs, they are now yours. You can now write in and justify them to me. Please justify to me that you're not good enough. You can't cope. You're unlovable. Don't give me the results of thinking that. Tell me why that is the truth about you. I've been asking my clients for over 45 years for that. They can't get their head into that space. They want to keep on talking about, oh, well, look, David, look at my weight, look at these. No. That's the results of thinking that. Give me the evidence why that statement is true. I believe it is untrue. And as you know, I say to you every video, you've got to base your life on truth, honesty, and integrity. If you believe you're not good enough, then write in and give me the proof. Give me the truth why you're not good enough. Put it in below here. Put it in the community. And let's talk about that. I will almost always guarantee it will be what someone else said to you.
Mm-hmm. I think, David, that's so powerful about understanding the difference between give me the truth, give me the evidence, and not the examples. Because the visualization that's just come to me, it's like saying, well, I've just kind of gone through 40, 50 years of my life thinking I'm useless, I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, and having 40, 50 years of self-sabotaging thoughts, beliefs and behaviour because of that. And you say to them, right, we stop here now and reflect back. Tell me why. Tell me the evidence why you think you're not good enough, why you think you're not lovable. And they turn around and say, well, hold on, look behind me. Look at the trail of destruction I've left. And basically you're saying that's not the proof.
That's not the truth.
That's just the result of walking through 40, 50 years of your life with those beliefs and thinking and behaving in accordance with those beliefs.
Absolutely.
It is like a trail of destruction that you've kind of left behind you.
And that's why it's called the Carousel of Despair. You create despair and then you use the despair to prove the carousel. Yeah. Get off the carousel. Yeah. You don't need to be on the carousel. Yeah. Life is not about doing the same thing over and over and over again just because it's familiar. Oh my goodness, I wish I had £1 for every client who says to me when we get to this discussion, well, it's easier. It's not easier. It's never been easier for you. Stop it, for goodness sake. It's not easier to self-destruct, to self-sabotage. This is not easy. This is the most destructive thing you are doing to your life. And then don't go back and say, yes, well, 50 years ago, my father said this. That was 50 years ago. You are doing it today. Now, if you've got this little voice inside of you, it's happening now, and you have taken the place of your father, mother, bullier, whatever it is. You are doing it to yourself. You are the saboteur of yourself. Yeah. Stop it. Draw a line and say, right, stop, no more. Let me now unpick this and make sure that if I carry on doing it, it's my truth. I'm doing it with honesty and with integrity. And I would do exactly the same thing to my physical child. Would you talk to your physical child the way you talk to yourself? And the answer to that should be yes. And then we're all right. Yeah. Then we move on.
Yeah. But David, what about when someone says, well, you know what? I think that I had a good relationship or I had a good job and then everything goes wrong. And I think actually it's not got nothing to do with me. I think the universe is against me, or it's some sort of karmic thing that nothing actually ever works out.
I hear this a lot.
So, it's basically not me, it's the universe. There's something wrong and I've got nothing to do with it.
Right. So I just find it's hard not to laugh because are you that special? Does the universe wake up every morning and say, right, we're going to go after you today? All right. Why would it do that? Why would it pin you out? It's very hard to have a serious conversation, but it goes against the spirituality that I talk about oneness. I'm sorry, you are unique. But like snowflakes, we're all unique. Why would the universe, if it could, I don't believe it could, but if it could, single you out, pick on you, follow you around? You know, they used to have that finger and they point.
It's you.
It's you. And it's following you around and pointing out all. And it's going to say, well, why doesn't then a rain cloud follow you around? Why don't you, every time you walk out your car, have a puncture? Why doesn't you have an accident every time you drive your car? This is just thinking rather than taking responsibility, shifting the burden of responsibility to what I call external. So they'll say, it's the universe, it's my partner, it's my boss, it's my job, it's this, it's Uncle Tom Cobley and all, it's everybody else.
But me.
But me.
Yeah.
Poor me, I'm the victim. I've got victim tattooed on my forehead, and people see me coming for a mile, and they pick on me. Of course they do, because that's what you say. I'm a victim, pick on me. And you can't blame people for picking on you. That's why the first step is just to stop it. Clear the decks. When you're digging a hole, stop digging. Don't carry on. And then go backwards and look at yourself. And where you have to look is not just in your thinking. You have to go one level deeper, do the golden thread, and get to your core beliefs. Your core beliefs are like a computer program or a sat-nav that's driving your life. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, David, I don't wake up every morning thinking I'm going to be a good idea to self-sabotage me. Of course you don't. But it's programmed in there. And it's like if you were wearing glasses with a yellow tint, everything you would see would be tinted yellow. If there was a blue tint, they'd be tinted blue. And you've got the wrong tint in your belief system. You've got to go back, base the belief system on your spirituality, on what I call Shen, on your truth, honesty, and integrity. Everything that goes through your head, through your belief system, through your mouth, should be the truth, should be what you believe, and is honest to you and honors your fantastic spirituality. That's what I would want for you. Never lie under any circumstances, never lie to yourself or to anyone else.
And David mentioned this golden thread process, which we teach, this therapy model, and we've gone over it in a couple of our other videos, and I will put a link to that. But in essence, what you're saying is if you can identify any of the self-sabotaging, self-destructive, self-talk, negative thinking, or behaviours that we've talked about, or quite simply have uncomfortable or painful red light feelings as a result of that self-talk or as a result of the behaviours, then you need to go down. So that's the kind of high level stuff. That's the surface level stuff that we hopefully now you can identify some of those patterns of thinking and behaviour. You need to go down and ask, what am I thinking? What am I believing? And where has this come from? And that's where the inner child work is involved. Now, David, I know you say the childhood environment is so fundamentally important. Our upbringing is so fundamentally important in terms of putting us on the right or wrong track in terms of our core beliefs.
And can I just say something? Not to place blame.
No.
We're not placing blame. We're just trying to understand our childhood environment, what you went through as a child, and you have to understand that. Because what I always say to my clients when they tell me some horrific childhood experiences, I say that proves my point. That proves my point that you are awesome to have come through that. So we're not looking to blame, oh, well, it was my parents. So we're not looking to do that. We do the golden thread to start to understand the childhood environment.
And I think you mentioned, David, that if our parents or people who cared for us when we were younger, that we looked up to, if they were critical of us, then that casts self-doubt. But the other thing is, even if we were brought up, I guess, in a very loving household, but our parents had self-doubt about themselves, or they were stuck in a pattern of self-sabotaging self-talk or behaviour, then we copy them.
And that's what I meant by inherit. We almost take it off them. It just is so kind of in the normal, isn't it? It's so easy.
Quite that
again, I often say this, I wish I had £1, because we live in the UK. I wish I had £1 for every time a client would say to me, I'm a worrier, just like my mum. How many times have you heard that? I'm just copying my mum. And we call it learned behaviour. And you've got to question that learned behavior. Because your mum was a worrier, because your dad was hypercritical, because your father set really high standards, because you never met his standards, doesn't mean that it's correct. Mm-hmm. Now, we're not blaming them. We're not picking fault, because that's not going to change anything. It's not going to move anything. The only thing that will move is your belief system, because it's yours. You're in control of it. Do not believe that. Here's something else I hear. It's ingrained, David. It's not ingrained. You can change it. It's your belief system. You've taken it, mirrored it, copied it, inherited, whatever you want to say. And I know it is very familiar. I know it seems easier, but it's not yours, is it? Unless you own it. If you own it, then you should be able to write in and give me the truth of why you're not good enough. You should tell me. And then you can't, because it's just carried on down. Yeah. And that's why this is so important, to get to that core. And so many people spend their lives up on this higher level, as Alex says, feelings, thoughts, talking about it, comparing, criticizing, what we call CCJ, being judgmental about themselves, about anybody else. This is what self-sabotaging is. Being so critical of yourself, so judgmental of yourself, you can never reach the standards that you set. Because even if you got close to those standards, guess what? Yeah. You'd raise the bar, wouldn't you? You'd never win this race. And this is why, to do the work, as Alex says, you've got to start here, but this is the entry door to the golden thread. I love what you said it's like following the breadcrumbs. Why, until you get to that core belief. And then you've got to say, is that core belief mine? Do I own it? Do I take responsibility for it? Do I want to live my life by it? Do I want to pass on that to my physical children? And here's again, I hear all this every day with my clients. Just 3 days ago, a client said to me, I would never treat my child the way I treat myself. And I said, why? And she said, well, he's very special. And I said, well, so are you. And that's the key. You've got to, this is the oneness we talk about.
And I think, David, that's the kind of message we wanted to give you in this video, because you do deserve happiness, you do deserve joy and pleasure in your life. You do deserve to have a fantastic career, fantastic loving relationships. Yes. You are awesome. This is your divine right. Absolutely. You should not be thinking otherwise. And if you follow the golden thread process technique that we teach, and listen to some of the other video resources we've done that I will put in the video description below, on things like negative self-talk, stopping procrastination, stop striving for perfection, stop thinking the worst is going to happen and fearing the future and that thing's always going to work out wrong. We've done so many videos to help you with this very broad topic, because we know we really want you to live to your potential, which is your absolute birthright. I really, really hope this video has resonated with you. If you can recognize any of the self-sabotaging thoughts or behaviors that we've talked about, please comment below and share your experiences. Please tell us your biggest takeaway from the video.
Can I just say one thing? Because I know what some people are going to say. I just want to scotch this. This doesn't mean to say that everything in your life is going to work out perfect. No. I'm just getting ready. I know what people, oh, David, you're being unrealistic. So we're not saying that, are we? No. We're saying that when your mindset is correct, when you do hit those events that are difficult, you deal with them much more inward way. Yeah. You find a way through them. You are creative. You are sensitive. You are determined. So we're not painting a rosy picture. Yeah. Everything's going to be wonderful. But as Alex says, if you believe in yourself, then when those difficult things do come, you'll sail through them.
As opposed to self-sabotaging, saying, well, there you go, this is proof that I'm not good enough, that I'm unlovable, that the universe is against me.
And you'll be saying, there's proof that I can cope with anything. The other way around.
And move on stronger.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. So we really hope you enjoyed this video. As you know, we produce new videos every week, so please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to work one-to-one with David on any of the issues we've talked about today, David works by video call with clients all over the world on these topics, and he'd love to work with you too. And I will put a link in the description below for more information on David's work. We look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.